Hey guys, what's going on? It's Everseen here. So today's video is going to be the second part of my four-part series of my updated troop guides where I kind of show you heroes and stuff. My old videos, they're just pretty outdated now, and a lot of my thesis on all those videos are wrong. So I really just want to clear up a lot of things and show you guys some awesome combinations. I'm going to start off by showing beginner combinations, intermediate, and then I'll show some advanced combinations. So let's get right into it. Alright guys, so before we get into the heroes, I want to talk about the troops themselves. So the thing with playing cavalry is that you're directly countered by spearmen, and it's going to be very difficult for you to play cavalry unless you have the appropriate heroes. And by appropriate heroes, I mean like a Mulan and a Cavan. It's pretty difficult to play cavalry unless you have those heroes because the infantry heroes are so easy to attain and are so strong against cavalry that it's almost a lost cause to play it. So we'll take a look at spearmen real quick, and a lot of people obviously use the elite axe warrior T9 and then the imperial axe warrior T11. So they have all the same abilities, they're just different tier. Kingsguard are very tanky, so they'll keep these spearmen alive, and they're much more tanky than what your cavalry will be. So they have an ability here where they deal an extra 30% damage to cavalry with a 36% chance to attack cavalry directly. So, already right there you're at a disadvantage because, spearmen just counter cavalry, and that's just how it is. And I wish it wasn't that way because, cavalry don't have any, bonuses against infantry. They just kind of exist and get destroyed by infantry. And 90% of the game right now is infantry players because infantry is so readily available. There's one, two, three, four, four different gold infantry heroes. We only have two for cavalry. There's a lot of strong purple and orange infantry heroes. It's just really hard to play cavalry right now because we just don't have the resources available. So if you're looking at cavalry, the main thing that you do want to play is you want to play the lancers because those are what scale at the end game. Unless you're going for something crazy like an L6 or T12, the mounted archers are basically useless because T10 and 11 are lancers. So I tell my members that T9 cavalry, if you're gonna train this, it's basically useless because why bother? Like, you can't promote them, and they're just not as strong as T10, I find, unless you're using something like an Adarin. But as the game scales up and up, Adarin's not good with T9 because everybody's going to be rolling around with T11 infantry, and they're going to be hitting these T9 cavalry really hard. So you're going to want to be going for the lancers because once you get T10, you can kind of use lancers, and then once you finally get L3, you can promote to the T11 lancers. So I just want to stress that if you're playing cavalry for free, you're kind of just at a disadvantage. Just keep that in mind. So you really have to play careful. And now I'm going to get into more the beginner stages of cavalry, how you kind of want to build your castle, how you want to, obtain the heroes that you need, etc. So the first thing you're going to want to do is use, Dragon Challenge, of course, because you can get the decal shards from all of these different goals. So I've already beaten them, so I can't really show you guys, but basically when you beat one of these goals, you'll be able to claim a little chest down here in the bottom right. It says under the fallows, and basically that'll give you a bunch of like decal shards and stuff. I think you can get them through the exchange center here if you just flip through this real quick, see if I can find. There's Khadija. So Khadija is another hero that you're going to want to focus on because Khadija is really good for her stats. She just gives a lot of stats, cavalry attack and defense, and Dekel, he only gives cavalry attack. So basically in the longer run you want to replace Dekel with Khadija, sorry, because she just has more stats than him. And another hero that you're going to want to go for is Rui. So this is kind of more of a spender hero as well because, obviously you get her from elf privilege. So you could use orange universal shards and you can summon her a lot. So you can still get her to like 120 for free. It just takes a lot of time. But Rui is really good for damage percentage. And, damage percentage is kind of what you need on your side as a cavalry player. Of course, you need a lot of statistics, but you also do need damage percentage, because if you don't have damage percentage, you're just going to get ruined by spearmen with only stats, because, you know, it's just like Faceless Knight, for example. Like, Faceless Knight, he only gives statistics, but he's basically, you know, not good, because Gideon is just so much better, because he gives statistics and he gives a damage buff. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, the only thing that's crap about Rui, and I wish they would change, is that I wish they would give her some statistics, because only damage percent is like pretty hard to use, because your statistics take a big hit from it. But ultimately, Rui's a good hero to go for. You know, Khadijah, Dekel, and then, you know, your yellow hero that you want to strive and work towards is going to be your Cavan. So he's kind of hard to build, you know, in the beginning, of course, but, you know, over time, just make sure that you're building up to Cavan. So Cavan gives a lot of statistics, and he also gives damage percentage buff to your cavalry. So good ways to try and get him are this fast castle development event, where you get these optional gold chests 3. You can get Eritrea, Jason, Kanta, Cavan. So the main ones that I kind of go for are Jason or Eritrea or Cavan. So, you know, if you're a cavalry player, you really want to go for Cavan. And, you know, once you get to Tournament of Kingdoms event, you're going to get this Conquering Colossus event. And this is just another thing tied in with the Kingdom versus Kingdom war. So basically, you can get the optional gold chest as well from scoring points in the Kingdom versus Kingdom, and you can just get more Cavan shards with that. So he's not insanely hard to build. It just takes a lot of time. If you're going to use gold universal shards, I would highly recommend that you save them all and that you go for Mulan, because, you know, Mulan, you can get her kind of for free by playing the banner event with gems, but it will help you if you spend a little bit of money to get her. But ultimately, if you're going to play cavalry, you are going to want to get Mulan, even for free. Like, it's going to take you a very long time, but all those gold universal shards, you just put them into Mulan. Alright, so now let's talk a little bit more about the intermediate combinations. So there's a lot of different things you can really do. It's up to you, I guess, because, you know, you can use heroes like Dolan that give, you know, a flat troop attack buff to every single troop. So if you use it with cavalry, you will get attack. There's, you know, Khadijah, of course, is one that you're going to want to be using, but, you know, Cavan is one that you should be having probably like 80 to 100 now, like level 80 to 100. And, you know, another good hero to use is Dolan, because he gives so much attack, but he's also a yellow hero, so he's going to give you a big boost to your books that you use. So a lot of people don't think that a hero like this, like Dolan, or a hero like Shingen would be good to use with cavalry. But honestly, they just give statistics for your cavalry. I don't really think it's better than Khadijah necessarily, because, you know, Khadijah gives 60% to attack and defense, while Dolan, he gives, you know, at peak 51%-ish. I think his peak is actually lower, 50%. So, you know, 8% less, but I think if you have the books on the heroes, you might actually be close to Khadijah or have a little bit more. But it's up to you to figure that out, really. I think Khadijah is probably just the best pick for intermediate, especially, you know, with a Cavan that's not super high, because you are going to get just a lot of statistic buff. You could use something like a Khadijah and a Dolan, you know, just to tie you over until you get Cavan to, you know, a good level. But really, there's not a whole lot for cavalry, like heroes wise. Like I said before, like, there's a lot of infantry heroes, but it's hard to build for cavalry. Like Rui would be, you know, all right to use with Khadijah just because of the damage percentage, but ultimately, you know, you're going to be suffering on your statistics, and you're going to be losing a lot of statistics. So Khadijah Rui is, you know, an all right combination. Dekel Khadijah is still kind of viable, but you probably want to start using like Khadijah and like a low level Cavan, probably like, you know, level 80 or level 100, just because, you know, Cavan gives this buff for every 1,000 cavalry in your dispatch up to a maximum of 13.29% damage. That's just mine. I think the peak status is more than that. It just depends on the level. So yeah, the level 120, it's a maximum of 25% damage. So, you know, he gives a little bit of statistics, and he also gives you a damage buff, so he might be good to use at even level 80, but ultimately you want him level 100 just so you can get those 3 book slots, because you can see at level 80 I still don't have the 3rd book slot. So you really want like your yellow heroes to be like at least 100, because just because of their buffs, it's just like Jason. If I was to use infantry, I'd really want him 100 until I start to use him seriously. But yeah, Aderin, I mean, she's okay, but I honestly just think that, I don't know, her buff for Lancers is just not that good. I mean, a 30% chance to ignore enemy defense, it's alright. She's definitely a much better pick than Rui, in my opinion, just because she gives attack and HP. So, like, really, Aderin, Khadijah is probably your best intermediate combination, and Aderin, Cavan, or Khadijah Cavan is probably your next best bet. Rui's just kind of on the back burner until, she gets some reworks. She just needs to have statistics added to her kit. I think that the damage percentage alone doesn't justify using her unless you have insane statistics. Alright guys, so this is going to be more of the rambling part of the video. There's a lot to say about the advanced combinations. Arguably, Cavan and Mulan are the best cavalry combination there is in the game. Other than if you're using T12 cavalry, I think that Aderin is probably the best choice. We've seen crazy reports, me and some friends, that, Aderin with Mulan is just insanely strong, especially against castle battles. She just gives so much critical strike percentage chance, and on top of T12 Cavalry just being so strong, the amount of kills that T12 Cavalry will get in a rally is like 1 million plus almost every single time, and it's kind of ridiculous. The fact of the matter is that the T12 Cavalry are in the rally, but you have T11 Cavalry that are also in the rally. So Lancers are range 1, so basically they act as meat for the T12 Cavalry. So the T12 Cavalry just have a lot of room to pick off the enemies. So in a rally end game, I think that Aderin Mulan is the best combination, even though she is an orange hero. If you have her fully strengthened with maximum books, with rush attack, all that, it's a very good utility. Cavan Mulan is just really good too, because Cavan's a yellow hero, so he gives better book percentage. But end game, really what you want for books are like attack, HP, and then rush attack, really, because I don't really think that defense is a huge concern when you're using cavalry. You basically just want them to hit very hard and survive very long, so that means having a lot of HP. I really don't think there's much else to say, because, there's nothing really to work with cavalry. We don't have a lot, like I've been saying. So Aderin Mulan or Cavan Mulan, those are just the best combinations. While, infantry, we have a lot of good combinations, and the only thing that really sucks right now is, Mulan was kind of broken in a sense, because in castle battles she would just kill so many troops. But after about a month or two, we kind of realized that she's not super broken. Only when people have like 8 or 900% statistics is she really truly broken. Because if you have a strong infantry castle, with 500% statistics, Gideon, Jason, you can take a Mulan rally like no problem and just eat the entire thing. And we all know that a lot of castles in the game are infantry heavy. The only thing that was making Mulan strong was the players that were forgetting to send their archers outside of their castle. So, I'm primarily on this castle an infantry archer hybrid, so I could take a Mulan rally with, a Gideon Jason, but I also primarily use a Jason Eritrea to counter infantry. So, when Mulan attacks me, she hits very hard. I have 3 million archers. I'll show you a report that I took a rally and lost about 2 million troops. So Jason Eritrea, you can see, defense, my defense is like 500 to 600 range. His attack was 700, about 500% HP. Really good stats. He didn't have rush attack, or actually he did have 1 rush attack, so that helped him quite a bit. But ultimately, man, like, you don't want to use archers against a Mulan. And this is where people are getting devastated by Mulan. And now they release Naya into the game, and she kind of just destroys Mulan entirely. So, I'm always a person of work with what you got, not with what you want. So, like, when Naya's in the game, I render, like, Cavalry as useless now. Like, yes, it's nice to have that one cavalry player for castle rallies, but it's not a top tier combination anymore. A lot of people spend money on Mulan, but now she's kind of on the back burner compared to Gideon Naya because it's just so much more stronger than a Mulan Cavan. That ties into when I talked about the troops and just infantry totally countering cavalry directly, like having more damage against them by default. So automatically you're at a disadvantage when using cavalry, and when they release something like Naya into the game, it just makes it so that cavalry just has no chance against top tier play is what I'm talking about. So Mulan and Cavan or Mulan Adarin, like, super good against castles, right? Because some people just don't send out their archers or their siege. Big castles that are like 300 million power, you could send a cavalry rally at it and devastate a lot of the range troops, because let's face it, if you're 300 400 million power, you've got about 20 million 25 million troops, so you don't have time to send all your stuff out. And if cavalry attack range troops directly with their charge ability, which I'll show right here, deals an additional 25% damage to bowmen and 30% damage to crossbowmen, with a 36% chance to attack the units at the very back of the formation. So it goes for catapults, and it goes for archers. So when you're using cavalry, that's your main goal, is to kill the range troops. So in a huge castle like that, man, like, you're going to kill no matter what. You might lose the entire rally, but you're guaranteed to at least probably trade out the kills or get slightly more kills. So like I'm saying, like 2 million versus 2 million, or you might get like 3 million kills versus 2 million deaths. But that's really the extent of what I see Mulan good for in top tier play. If people aren't using infantry, against your Mulan, then you're good to go. But if somebody has a Naya, it's a coin flip, right? Like, if someone has a Naya, you lose. It's basically just it. So that's why I stress so much about using infantry instead of cavalry. It's just the way it is, man. Like, I wish it was different. I wish they would rework, the stuff a little bit better. But ultimately, guys, Mulan and Cavan or Mulan Adarin is only top tier against castles or against, weak turrets on a throne. It's not meant for attacking a Gideon Naya directly. So guys, to end off the video, I just want to give you, kind of some opinions. I think that, infantry with Gideon Naya at the top level of play is just going to obliterate Mulan and Cavan, or Mulan Adarin, whatever you want to use. But that's just what it is, and you can't really change that, unfortunately. I want it to be different, where infantry is not so heavily weighted, and they're kind of steering us in the right direction, where it used to be literally just infantry. Like, we didn't have any cavalry heroes, we didn't have any archer heroes that made the troops actually good. So now we're kind of getting closer and closer, I find. But now we're also releasing something like a Naya, which makes no sense, where um, they just thought that adding another infantry hero would stop the tirade, which is Mulan, because Mulan was just very strong. She was beating infantry like all the time. So what they did to overcompensate was to release Naya, which I think was a big mistake for the game. I really just think they should have either, nerfed Mulan a little bit, or just taken away her double attack percentage, because in reality that's just insanely strong. I mean, if your rally can only attack once and the other rally has 2 million troops and they can attack twice, that's a big advantage right there. And that was too big of an advantage for like a Beej Gideon or a Jason Gideon trying to attack this and hit this off a throne, because it would just ultimately be way too strong. So I mean, cavalry is good to have like that one player that you can dish all of the cavalry to, and sort of just use that guy's heroes for like castle battles. But the extent of what you're going to use Mulan for is really just like castle battles and maybe like some weak turrets in KVK. I know my castle, I would get devastated if a Mulan rally hit me, so I normally just either shield or die to a Mulan. Mulan's really good at solo hitting castles. My king in K241, before playing KVK with him when he first got Mulan 120, he was soloing like 50, 60 million power L3s that just have so much garbage in their castle, like a bunch of low statistic archer and siege stats where like he was just obliterating these castles, getting 700,000 kills, a million kills, losing the dispatch, but ultimately he was trading and getting more points. So, he had so much cavalry to use. It's just ammo at that point. He's just using ammo to get points. So, as a big player, I mean, if you're going to buy Mulan and Cavan alongside with infantry, it's a really good investment too, because having a hybrid castle is really effective, because a lot of people think that you're only going to be one troop, but if you surprise them with another troop type, you can really catch people off guard. But with that being said, guys, like, I just think that cavalry is okay, but you have to spend a lot of money to make it good, and ultimately it's not the best. And I'm kind of a fan of using what is the best, because infantry has just been strong for so long that I really just think that there needs to be a serious game rework in order for them not to be just the best troop. So I'm going to keep using infantry in my opinion, but cavalry, it's also cool. You can do it if you want. But yeah, but thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you guys, like my opinions and stuff. If you don't, let me know what's different, what I missed. If there's anything that you guys want to talk about, just tell me in the comments. I'll respond. Yeah, thanks for watching again, and like and subscribe to the video. Discord link's going to be in the description. I haven't really been active on Discord like a whole lot, but if you want to come in, you got some questions, good spot to ask questions is in my Discord. So yeah, just come over there, hang out with us. But anyways, guys, I will see you in the next guide when I do archers. See ya.